Okay, imagine being trapped in a freezing, wind-lashed forest, where just staying alive means carving magic directly into your own flesh. Pretty intense, right? Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving into a genuinely gripping story titled The Game. We're going to unpack this absolute masterclass in tension. We'll look at the excruciating physical costs of rune-based survival, a terrifying wilderness chase, and a final twist that will completely flip your understanding of who the real monsters actually are. Let's get right into it.
So we drop right into the action, and we find our protagonist starving and pushed to the absolute breaking point. Picture this: they're hunting a squirrel, barefoot, balancing way up in a freezing, wind-lashed tree, and they haven't eaten in 2 days. The winter wind here, it isn't just some picturesque backdrop. It is actively fighting them, literally clawing through their thin tunic. It's a desperately high-stakes situation from the very first breath.
You can almost feel the sensory nightmare of this environment, can't you? Think about that rough, frozen bark slicing into bare feet, and hearing that haunting scratch tap of beetles deep inside the brittle oak wood. Add to that the terrifying sluggishness of a body just running completely on empty. The forest itself is acting as an active antagonist here. It's trying to shake them loose. Every single element of the cold is perfectly designed to sap whatever little strength they have left.
Well, all that sheer desperation leads to a really disastrous mistake. Just as they secure their kill with a quick burst of magic, boom, the branch gives way, and the fall ends with the sickening crunch of a broken right arm on the frozen earth. Now out here, a broken bone isn't just an inconvenience. It's a straight-up death sentence, because there are things much, much hungrier than our protagonist roaming this forest, and suddenly they're completely vulnerable, just bleeding their body warmth right into the snow.
Now, to survive this, they have to rely on a brutal magic system. And let me tell you, this is definitely not your typical fantasy where spells are cast with a fun, effortless flick of a wand. Oh no, it is grueling. It is agonizing. Casting a spell requires focusing your intention and then violently channeling energy directly through carved bodily scars. The whole thing is bound by strict, unforgiving laws of equilibrium. Basically, magic does not come for free in this world. It exacts a severe, bloody toll every single time.
Every single spell demands a specific, painful intention. To execute the command, break, they use a scar on their right palm. To bind that shattered arm, they have to use the scar at their elbow. And to burn, they use a hated scar on their lower back. Imagine having to endure the sensation of your flesh being carved open all over again every time you just need to survive. It's a massive psychological and physical toll. They are constantly re-traumatizing themselves just to stay alive in this incredibly harsh ecosystem.
But here's the catch. Magic requires fuel. To heal that shattered arm, they have to literally steal life force from the massive living oak tree beside them. Mending bone is incredibly difficult, so the protagonist has to reach out and violently pull energy right from their surroundings. Now, the tree naturally resists. It's always harder to take from living things, right? But sheer desperation forces them to break that barrier. They have to deeply connect with the ancient oak before forcefully ripping away the vital energy they need to survive.
Because this magic, it demands absolute equilibrium, a life for a life, a balance to the breaking. For the protagonist's bones to violently crash back together, a branch high above must snap. All the water in the immediate area is driven out, leaving this scorched circle of black ash. Yet in a really fascinating display of cosmic balance, another branch suddenly thrives with new shoots and a spreading colony of mushrooms. It's an exact zero-sum trade of death and life.
But of course, this agonizing healing process comes with a completely different kind of price. The protagonist screams in pain as the bones violently mend, and that sound, combined with this massive surge of unnatural magic, acts like a beacon. So yeah, the broken arm is fixed, but the scent of blood and raw magic has attracted something much, much worse than the cold.
A low growl echoes through the trees. An apex predator with unnaturally long arms, towering over the protagonist, has tracked them down. The tension just absolutely spikes here. Do they climb back up the tree? Nope, this creature is built for climbing. Pressing their back to the bark, they quickly calculate their odds. Staying still means certain death. Their only chance is a desperate dash.
And just like that, we are instantly thrown into a visceral, blind sprint through the tangled brush. The protagonist is practically flying between ancient trees, keeping their feet high to avoid the roots, tracing every hidden deer path to avoid the sheer vulnerability of an open meadow. It's pure, adrenaline-fueled flight. They're relying on their intimate knowledge of the forest's foxholes and hidden crags just to stay one step ahead of a highly lethal hunter.
But the creature is closing the gap with terrifying speed. You can almost hear the scrape of its claws tearing over the wood, the heavy huff of its breath. The beast howls, and it's a sound so massive it literally rips through the trees and flushes birds right out of the canopy. The protagonist can actually feel the prickle of fear on their spine, sensing those claws just inches away from their back.
The sensory horror really peaks right here. It's this potent mix of the primal fear of being hunted and the suffocating, sour stench right on their heels, the smell of decay. This isn't just a normal wolf or a bear. That scent tells us this creature is tied to the darker, ancient magic of the forest. Suddenly, the heavy footsteps change rhythm. The beast is leaping for the final pounce.
Narrowly dodging a swipe from a massive claw, the protagonist throws themselves sideways at the absolute last possible second. They wriggle through sharp briars and dive headfirst into a crumbling crack between ancient stone pillars. The creature roars in frustration outside, swiping at the brush and raining debris down on them, but they manage to scramble deeper into the fissure. They've made it to their hidden sanctuary.
Okay, so cornered in the cave, the protagonist uses their magic to ignite a small fire to chase the ache from their muscles, thinking, all right, I'm safe. But then, the scuff of claws on stone echoes inside the cave. They turn. The monster is standing right in the entrance. It's this towering, drooling beast with grotesque patches of fur, 6-inch claws, and hollow, dark red eyes. There is literally nowhere left to run. It really seems like the brutal end has finally arrived.
But here is the brilliant, totally unexpected twist. The protagonist just sighs, holds out an empty hand to the sulking beast, and simply says, "You know the rules. Last one home has to share." Boom! It completely shatters the horror we've been experiencing. Instead of an epic fight to the death, they address this nightmare monster like a roommate who forgot to do the dishes. I mean, what a pivot, right? So it turns out, this terrifying apex predator isn't a wild threat at all. It's a domesticated companion. The monster actually throws its head back and howls in dramatic heartbreak just because it lost the race home. It goes and sulks in the corner like a scolded dog before coughing up a caught hare to share with them. The entire dynamic instantly shifts from pure adrenaline horror to this bizarre, fascinating domestic routine where they pool their hard-won resources just to survive the winter.
This starkly contrasts two very different realities. Out in the brutal, natural order of the freezing forest, the rules dictate that the monster, who is older, larger, and infinitely stronger, absolutely should have eaten the protagonist a long time ago. But inside the cave, a new rule completely overrides nature: share or die. The winter is just way too unforgiving for either of these outcasts to make it on their own.
And what's really fascinating is how their magic mirrors this unique bond. The protagonist's rune magic is unnatural. It's all about forcing change, breaking things, and binding them. But the monster's magic, it's the magic of the soil, of rot, decay, and rebirth. It's an essential, deeply rooted part of the forest's life cycle. So they really represent two sides of the same magical coin, existing in this necessary, delicate tandem.
Bound by this mutual game of survival and a shared trauma of painful magic, they actually find solace in each other. The protagonist can literally walk right up to the beast and scratch behind its ears. Now sure, there is still fear. Fear is what keeps them sharp, after all, but it's eclipsed by an overriding sense of respect. They see themselves reflected in each other. Just two anomalies playing the game together to stay alive.
As we close out today's explainer, I want to leave you with a thought about the boundaries between humanity and nature. See, the protagonist steals life and burns their own flesh to survive, while the terrifying, rotting beast provides food, warmth, and companionship. It really forces us to ask, in a world this cold and unforgiving, who is the real monster? Thanks so much for joining me for this breakdown. Stay curious, and I'll see you in the next explainer.